Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King, and today I'm going to be giving you part 10 of What If Naruto Became the Greatest Puppeteer. Remember to get this one to 200 likes as usual, share this to all of your friends on your social media platform, and also go ahead and check out the brand new episode of What If Naruto Unlock a Strange Power Over an Anime King 2, and enjoy that guys. And remember, if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice and you enjoy the videos on both Anime King and Anime King 2, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying talking back to all of you. So without further ado, what is to begin this new episode? Start the intro. So the last time we left off, Sarah quickly made her way down with Hinata, as a battle was going on between Naruto and Minato versus Mugen. Mugen realized that he wasn't able to get past him, so he started to absorb all of the puppets, the broken puppets in the room, as they attached to his body, making him grow large and larger and larger and larger, until he became a massive thing that towered over the city, as he started to clash violently with Naruto and Minato and Choza. Even Choza in his giant form wasn't able to bring down Mugen, as Naruto had something up his sleeve, but it was just a prototype. But still, he pulled it out, as it was a giant puppet, a female puppet, as she had 4 arms. It started clash against Mugen, as Naruto felt the burning sensation of the Kyuubi chakra running through him, as this made Minato, well, the things that he was thinking confirm, as he was able to bring down Mugen and Minato, pouring a Rasengan into the puppet, as the Rasengan drive right through Mugen, who resorted back to his smaller form as he went down there where Sarah and Hinata were. As he rushed towards Hinata, Hinata stomped right in his face and kicked him as he fell right into the power source. The place started to get overrun in power as Minato came there as he sealed off everything. But Ran will have to be destroyed because the power source was currently shut down. As Minato knew that Naruto was his son, as Naruto knew that he was his father. After the brief interaction, the both of them were quite smart. But Minato had to wipe all of their memories, as Naruto kept him talking just for a few seconds so he can place a seal on the back of his head, as Minato wiped all their memories before they were teleported back to the future. But Naruto had every piece of memory, because he placed a seal so he wouldn't forget. As they told the Hokage they didn't know anything, Sasuke was not there. All he saw was they were gone 1 second, and then they were there the next second. Naruto got back home, as he had a plan. He was going to free Neche. He could also do the same for Hanabi, but he was going to wipe her memory. But she said no. After all that she has learned and seen so far in this past time when she's been with him, she didn't want to forget it. But she would still find a way to escape here. He still freed Neji, as he set it up so Neji was found by a Konoha scout. But Neji had no idea what happened to him. Lucky enough that he didn't free Hanabi as well, because Jiraiya checked Neji for any mind alteration seals on him. Everything then went to hell when Kiri and the Sand started to attack Konoha, as Naruto was confused as hell what was going on. He paid Sakura a visit while her grave, as he saw Ino invite him to a party as he went there. He wasn't sure why he accepted as he went there and they were talking, as Kiba didn't like how Naruto was, well, acting all high and mighty than all of them. But Sasuke told him to just shut up, dog boy, as he was on Naruto's side in this, as he gave Naruto a nod, as Naruto simply nodded back. As Kiba said something that made Naruto start to think, what if someone is pulling the strings? What if someone is controlling the Sand and Kiri? He heard that Gaara was taken. Now that was surprising. There must be someone else out there, an outside group in all of this. As he was leaving, a bit drunk Hinata came up to him, as she told him that he couldn't leave without saying goodbye, as she kissed him on the cheek and then ran off, back into the room. He never thought that she would have the nerves to do it. Some time passed as Naruto was currently in the mist. As he was suddenly attacked, he had to dodge. The person was just trying to see if he was still as skilled as before, as it was Haku and Zabuza came there, as Zabuza had a team. As Naruto knew that they were working with the rebellions, because there was no way that Yagra would allow Zabuza to work for him after what he did. As the others wondered why Zabuza was being so friendly to this guy, but Zabuza told them that he voted for him. So yeah guys, so basically that's where we left off. You guys can switch across to the PlayStation channel for your subs. So let's begin this new episode. The group made their way back to the camp as Naruto dropped back, running with Haku at the rear. Raimya was keeping pace with them on the ground. No sword for you then, Naruto asked. From what he had seen, Haku doesn't have a sword, and being a swordsman from the mist was a badge of pride, and he knew that Haku would want to wear it. Not really my style, Haku said, as he flashed you one-handed hand signs. He had gotten really fast at it, even faster than before. He whispered something as he curled his hand like he was holding a blade, and next moment he was. A beautiful shining blade of ice grew from his palm as it morphed into a broad, long sword. I much prefer how my Genkai work, he said. Stick with what you're good at. I can't exactly argue with that myself. So, how do you two get roped into rebellion? Last time I checked, you guys were distrustful of any other Kirin ninjas. Well, it seems someone else thought the same thing, said Haku with a smile. Mei Terumi came herself to recruit us. Well, he said looking down. She came for Zabuza-sama. I was a bonus. Turns out most people thought the Yuki clan was wiped out for good, as Haku cheese got red. Terumi-sama keep on dropping these subtle hits about all, well, available young Kunoichi. And for us to settle down after the war is over. You guys are that confident, huh, said Naruto. Well, you sort of have to be in our situation, but for us, it's genuine. Terumi-sama is an amazing leader, not to mention powerful. She will make a wonderful Mizukage when all this is over. That's a lot of praise, Naruto said. And all of it is deserved, said Zabuza cutting in. As Naruto wanted to meet this Terumi now, if she could inspire Zabuza like this. Haku's right, Mei's a beast on the battlefield. She has more than enough to bring down that bastard Yagura, especially after his latest stunt of invading the mainland. What does the rebellion think about that, said Naruto, as he really want to know why Yagura was invading and attacking Konoha. Honestly, we have no idea. We were hoping for a chop for the past few weeks. Probably why you took so long to track us down. Yeah, we knew about your little contact missions, but we didn't know if we could trust you yet. But Yagura is really becoming admitted to this. Targets that was hard to take down first are now easy pickings because he's letting them out in the open. Either he has finally gone off deep end or, as Zabuza went quiet, what Naruto said, you can't just leave me hanging like that. Kid, I'm not supposed to be telling you anything. I'm just hoping I'll get to see you and Haku fight again. From the front of the group, the white-hair teen, Sugetsu, if you remember properly, snorted. Haku versus this ass clone? No contest. I'll fight Haku if you keep on going. I'll even sweep the floor with 4 eyes and drip you over there, said Naruto. No, that I'd like to see, said Zabuza. Ignored Sugetsu curses. Alright then, you really want to know. Look kid, I knew Yagura, or I thought I did. He was always a pretty cold guy, but he was always doing it for our Kirin interests. We felt that we were finally dragging ourselves out of the reputation we made for ourselves. But then overnight the guy go over the deep end and declare war on every bloodline user in the country. People doesn't just change like that, I don't know. It's like the guy is being controlled, like he's under some kind of a genjutsu, said Naruto. Finishing up for Zabuza. As Naruto couldn't think of any genjutsu that could do something like that. That kind of sudden personality change was one thing, but a genjutsu the whole, as long as that. Even if they control those all around, Yagura was a Jinchuriki and a powerful Mizukage. How would someone control him that easily? Unless you had something like a Sharingan. Itachi was a well-known master of the art, possibly the greatest genjutsu user alive. But the timeline didn't match up. Unless Itachi has been manipulating Yagura since he was a kid. Has there been many sightings of the Akatsuki in Mizo lately? Black cloaks with red clouds. The entire group went silent. That told Naruto all that he needed to know. Time skip. Hanabi felt like a little kid again as she made a little wooden doll dance in front of her. She had been once told that her mother loved shadow puppetry, that her father was dragged all the way to the capital. In her youth, Hinata had tried to learn the art of connecting with her lost mother, but she had limited success. But Hanabi was delighted by the little performance her sister put on same way. They were clumsy and simple, but had been one of the few things that both of them loved together. But Hayashi put a stop to it, finding them a painful reminder other than connected to the past, as she made the wooden puppet dance on the table. As she thought about her strict training at the Haiku compound, while Naruto wasn't that strict, he always wanted her to do the best that she could, and it gave her some, well, motivation. As she was surprised, with all of his time he spent out of the village nowadays, especially connecting with the rebels at Mizo, he had time to train her. She could tell that he was getting a bit stretched thin, as he still used his clones, but for paperwork and managing spine work. But testing poisons, working on new designs and training her, he did that by himself. and they were starting to tire him, and not to mention his missions. She knew that eventually he will have to give something up. She finished up her train by making the puppet move through her Jayugan stance before hopping right into her palms. Her strings were still visible, and the wasted chakra meant that it was quite, well, exhausted. She moved through the building, searching for where he would be working, as she barely even noticed all the clones around, just going for the original. As he was at his desk, observing two little puppet birds as they hopped around, as they were acting like real birds, twitching. But one of them didn't try to fly. It flapped twice, only then to collapse to the ground. The other one, a slightly lighter shade ochre, tried to do the same thing. It might get in the air, but it couldn't be called flight. More like awkward, hovering. Still refused to just import and use the sandwood. She asked suddenly, annoyed. When he didn't even twitch, she thought that she was sneaking up on him, as she's been trying to do that lately. Too brittle for what I have in mind. I think I'm getting close to with the deposit though. It's quite dense and durable for what I'm about to do, he said. One of the wooden birds flapped again and he saw the glint of metal along its wings. As she looked across the wall to see all kinds of designs for new puppets. There was definitely a bird theme, but she couldn't make out the end result. You have that look again, said Naruto. What look, she said, as she calmed her face. I don't have a look, she said. He looked at her with a blank face. You have that look again, to say, why can't I make my own puppet? Well, why can't I, she asked. He was about to say something, but he stopped himself, before glancing at a little doll in her arms. As he said nothing for a while, until he spoke. Show me how far you have come with that. A spark of hope welled up in her chest, as she only had to concentrate for a second, as her chakra strings attached to the puppet, as the doll leaped from her hand, as it landed and rolled. It was forced to jump to the other side as a beak slammed down where it was, nearly destroying it. Hey, Hanabi said. Naruto raised the eyebrow, controlling the bird with two fingers. I said, show me how far you have come. As his finger twitched, the doll quickly jumped back, avoiding the bird's sweep. Because the wing was covered in metal, it could have tear right through it. As the doll grabbed a pen off the desk and thrust it forward, as the bird leaped over the pen and flapped its wing. As Hanabi let her doll fall off, and then ran around the other side and ran and catch a pen and leaped forward. The bird came around that swinging wing, trying to tear it in half, but the doll slipped around it and brought down the pen and jammed it right through the bird's beak, sticking it down in the table. As the doll then climbed over and wrapped its arm around the bird's neck. Alright, that's enough, said Naruto. As Hanabi nodded, as it was a quick move to think on your feet like that, but she did. Suddenly, the bird pulled its head up, dislodging the pen from its beak and breaking the hole that the puppet had on it, and moved forward as it ripped the puppet head off. Hey, Hanabi said, as she grabbed the doll back and looked at the two separate parts. That was just an important lesson, said Naruto. You never let your guard down until you're certain that your opponent is out of commission or cannot attack anymore. He glanced at the way she was looking at the wooden doll. He could repair it easily, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. You will be practicing with something bigger very soon. She seemed to forget about the doll almost instantly, her eyes lighting up. You mean? He nodded. I'm going to be gone for a few days. We've been encouraged to aid the rebels on a few operations they have been planning. When I come back, I expect to find you with a puppet that you made yourself. My clones won't help you, and if I find that you repurpose any of the parts of my puppet shop, I'll take great pleasure in destroying that puppet in front of you. This has to be your work from scratch. She nodded as she started to run off, but she was stopped by a chakra string attaching to her feet. Where are you going? We still have your taijutsu practice for the day. What do you care? You hate taijutsu, she said, frustrated that she was being held back. Yes, and it's abysmal right now, a weakness that I did my best to overcome by focusing more on my puppetry. You have no such excuse. You are good at taijutsu, said Naruto, and you have extensive teaching in it. She flushed a little from the praise. So, if you could go back, you would focus more on taijutsu, she asked. Probably not, but I didn't have the benefit of a teacher. Wouldn't to correct those mistakes? Hanabi sighed. Fine, she said. How did you get so good at, replicating the Jayugen anyway, she asked. Naruto stayed quiet, causing her to sigh. That probably meant it had something to do with Hinata. Whenever she brought her sister up recently, her teacher became clamped up and quiet. It made him go even harder in their training, but that was okay for her. She had a bit of frustration to work out. Time skip. The rebels seem happy about their recent success. Well, being forced out of your home to live somewhere like this, and being attacked by the people you once called friend. Being able to defeat them back. He supposed he could, well, celebrate after that. But after every successful mission, drinking yourself into a stupor was not the right way to go. They were always tight about their security, and a few people were kept aside for the nightly watch. But it seems a bit excessive for his taste, as he was at the edge of the camp. He was away from the Kira rebels that was trying to get him to drink. You know, you can loosen up a bit, Sasuke says he made his way over to Naruto. As his cheeks were a bit pink, it seemed like he took their offer. It can't be so healthy, being uptight all the time. Huh, you're lecturing me on being uptight, said Naruto. Besides, you know what else isn't healthy? Having your throat slit because you were too drunk to not notice the ambush. Sasuke shrugged, not really caring. It amazed Naruto how much he has mellowed out since their genuine days. More specifically, since Sakura's death. As Naruto felt like between all of them, Sakura's death had hit Sasuke the hardest. It seems like he got a flashback of every attempt that she had made to ask him to go out with her. After a long while, he started to open up to more people, trying to at least make up for that, well, relationship that will never happen ever again. He had never loved Sakura or anything much like that. It was just a regret he was trying to make up for in his own way. If Naruto's intuition was right, he would make Jonin soon. His interpersonal skills were the only thing holding him back on that front, with what basically amounted to an apprenticeship under Kakashi, who has been shaped into a powerful shinobi, the one that made his name the third great shinobi war, not the lazy teacher that they once had. Even for a ninja, you're paranoid, you know that, said Sasuke. As Sasuke took a sip from his cup, paranoid and not dead, said Naruto. Fair enough, although I wouldn't count on it. If you leave that simmering for much longer, he said, looking towards your third teammate who was coming to them. Now, if you'll excuse me, a certain Kunoichi has been making eyes at me across the campfire for a few minutes now. As a Uchiha, I feel obligated to let her know all about these eyes, as Naruto simply watched him leave. As Sasuke had two goals, kill his brother and to restore the Uchiha clan. It seems he was focused on the kind of thing, but Sasuke knew not to do anything stupid. As someone sit down next to him, it's nice to see them so happy, despite everything they have been struggling with. They know tomorrow could be their last day, why not live it up every night? As he glanced towards Hinata who was beside him, he still hadn't worked out what to do with this situation, or how to deal with it. She has been mostly ignoring him since that night, out of embarrassment or probably waiting for him to do something. He couldn't really tell. It crept into his thoughts recently, but he still haven't come to any conclusion. She was attractive. She was clearly smitten with him. She was also submissive. She wouldn't ask a lot of probing questions, and that was a plus for him. At the same time, he didn't really think about a relationship like that at all. What was the point? If he was going to live to an age where that kind of thing mattered, why deal with it now? And if he didn't live to that age, he would be dead, so it wouldn't matter at all. But he didn't have forced his hand on that night. Did he like her? She was nice to be around. He got along with her better than most, but he was just different from other people. Probably because he ended up turning Kin into a puppet. And he, well, changed her body. And he went inside, it just desensitized him to most things. So seeing a naked girl like that, it really didn't give him that boost. That jumping thing that other people would get. He was just more mellowed out. But this silence was getting rather awkward. I want to apologize, she said, as she looked down to her drink. It was inappropriate of me to put that kind of pressure on you. We are at war, and there's so many things going on. I was drinking, and I don't know, I'm sorry, she said. I normally would have never been so bold. It's alright, he said. No, she said. I was foolish to think that you would look that way at someone like me. I'm not even strong like you. I don't have your dedication or drive. When people hate you for being a Jinchuriki, it only made you fight harder. I can't even protect my own sister, she said. Naruto's eyes widened. He didn't thought anyone from his generation had worked that out, except for Shikamaru. I should go, she said. But Naruto grabbed her hand. As his other hand grabbed her by the chin, as he just looked at her. She didn't know why, but she couldn't move under his gaze. His eyes were just calculating, but at the same time she felt warmth. He leaned forward. She couldn't even move. Was this real? No. This probably was an illusion that would break at any moment now. She would wake up and this would all be a bittersweet dream. But it actually happened as her lips made contact. A burst of courage went off inside of her as she leaned into it. As she wrapped her arms around his neck, placing her hand into his hair, feeling his spiky locks. When they did finally break apart, her cheeks were flushed. A smile on her face. But his face, it hadn't changed. Why was he still looking at her like that? Like some unsatisfied experiment. And she knew that he had at least tried. But he felt nothing. He could feel nothing for someone like her. Thank you, she said, lip trembling as she was about to walk off. You're not worthless. As she stopped. You're not the weak, spineless girl that you've been brought up to see yourself as. I've seen strength in you, a dedication to succeed, to grow past the image your family admired you in. I know you look to me and see strength, but I'm not entirely sure why. She didn't understand. How could he not see that? He was one of the strongest person you know. But if you look hard enough, you will see that same determination in yourself. If you look past what other people say you are. As he released a long breath. I'm sorry. I want you to know that, he said. That was too much for her. As she walked away as quickly as she could, he sat there. As he saw the drink that she had abandoned, he grabbed it and downed it. He could understand now why the Kiri Shinobis had celebrated their small victories. Because the failures, they were so worse. Time skip. Naruto came home with a strange mood. As Hanabi saw it, he just went to work. Normally when he acted like that, she would try her best to just avoid him. Not trying to get in his way, but right now she was too excited and nervous. As she cleared her throat for the second time, but he said nothing. As she went a bit closer and cleared her throat, he then spun around as he had a cold look on his face. What? Can't you see I'm doing something important, he said. She shrank under that gaze. She could never remember a time he'd spoken like that to her before. You said, sorry, it's just... She looked down. It was like she was a little girl again, being chewed out by one of the elders. Look down. Don't meet their eye. Whatever you do, don't cry. My puppet, she said. She heard him sigh as she looked back up, as he was rubbing his temple. Sorry, I didn't mean that. I guess this is the day where I can't help but disappoint Hyugas. Come on, he said. Let's go take a look. She saw that he was, well, bothered by something, so she said nothing and she just went with him. She read all of the books about engineering and woodcrafting, but putting it into action was, well, extremely difficult. Her puppet wouldn't win any prize for beauty, but she did her best and it was working. In the end, it looked like a rougher version of Dummy, but it was more feminine, as it was a few inches taller than Hanbi herself. It had some Senmon launchers mechanics inside of it. He never said that she could not reverse engineering some of his Senmon launchers with other puppets. As Naruto walked around it, testing it, as he attached shreds to it, as he started to move it. How was he making it move so well? She couldn't move it like that, yet. Eventually, after he run Mari, that is what she named the puppet, through her check. A smile came on his face. I'm a little jealous, he said. That caught her off guard. While satisfied with her creation, she knew it wasn't anywhere on the level of the kind of puppets that he made. In Naruto's eyes, it was very different. Despite building Mari from scratch, she had very advantage that he couldn't have dreamed of when he started his. She had his materials. Dame was put together from just some rough material. He was forced to cut down a tree from Trinity himself. It had taken nearly 3 days. His knowledge of the seals was shaky by then, so he just went through fail and error and then succeed. She also had access to knowledge that he had spent years to collect. Years. But she did it. And he was proud. Yes, he was proud of her. Come on, he said. Let's put her through her paces, shall we? As she nodded as she latched her strength to Mari. As Naruto walked Dame into the room, a copy of him. Time skip. As Naruto's currently lying down, as he was at the camp in Mizo, the nights were beautiful here. His eyes were closed but he wasn't asleep. He heard a hissing sound. As he got up, suddenly the entire camp was covered by a purple smoke. He leaped forward as he grabbed a breather out of his pocket and placed it all around his mouth. When he looked back, the entire camp was behind a smoke screen, except for a single figure walking forward towards him. Their features are obscured by the poison, but their voice is recognizable to him. I underestimate your will to live. I would like to know how you counteract my poison. Sasori did not fully emerge. Surprised to see me, he asked. You could say that, said Naruto as he scanned the tree behind Sasori. Then you disappoint me once again, said Sasori. To think that you have such trust in a weak source of information. No contingencies, no assurances. It was almost, well, too easy to slip my agents in place. True agents, only loyal to me. As he stepped forward, I don't know why. I thought you might ever be interesting. You're just a... Sasori paused as Naruto smirked as he set off the explosions inside the fake camp that they were in as the privacy seal, so no one outside could hear it. Well, I guess I am smart enough, feeding misinformation to my network for at least a month now, hoping that someone will eventually slip you something. As he removed the gas mask. Thank you for proving me right, he said. Naruto was not surprised when dust settled, and there was that scratch on Sasori. A thin dome of iron sand protected him, glowing red a bit because of the intense heat of the blast. It fell away, pulling around the third Kazekage. I want to thank you for being so predictable, Senor to the smirk. When I realized that Akatsuki was behind the escalation in the war, I never thought I could separate one of you from the group. You guys travel in pair, right? Sasori said nothing, he simply dusted his cloak off. But I knew that you would be different, said Naruto. Of course you think that you could handle me all by yourself. You've done it before, right? Your miraculous survival must have gone to your head if you think anything will change this time, said Sasori. As he flexed his hands, Naruto's expression darkened as he tested the wire he had under the leaf earlier. Oh, things will be very different this time. As Naruto's hand shot up, but Sasori was still faster. The Kazekage reared back, a compartment in the chest opened up, releasing a pulse of chakra as the irons behind the Kazekage twitched before forming into thousands of senbons as they rocket forward at incredible speed towards Naruto. But Naruto was not going for a puppet. His hands flashed through hand signs, ending on Dragon Steel. Lightning, Habashi, he said, as he slammed his hand on the wire. A low hum could be heard. At 4 points around the camp, there were magnets. As the electricity pulsed, Naruto had rocked his brain about how to defeat the man Keiki Genkai. But he never had to beat the third Kazekage Keiki Genkai. He just had to overpower it, as powerful magnets were hidden behind camouflage streaks. The iron sand was pulled away as they went around the magnets. The moment the man was open, Naruto burst his hand up as 5 copies of dummies burst from the earth, crawling out like zombies. As Sasori was still wrestling with the iron sand, as the dummies had explosive in them, enough to level this entire place. Something thin and fast whipped out of Sasori's cloak. It would have cleaved through all 5 of them if Naruto did not cut off the jutsu. The sudden stumble of magnetic return caught Sasori off guard just a bit. 3 of the dummies were bisected by whatever weapon Sasori had inside his own body. 2 of them made it though as they exploded. This time Sasori was forced to leap away. The Kazekage was nothing but splinters though. I think that brings the count of puppets that calls you up to 2 now, said Naruto. It was hard to imagine that Sasori had any other puppet than the Kazekage. So unless he was hiding the third Raikage in those cloaks, he felt like he could handle whatever Sasori could throw at him from here. Your body will replace him soon enough, said Sasori. I've never had a Jinchuriki in my possession before. I prefer to think of it as a service, said Naruto, if I kill you. It saves you the pain of, well, making the Kyuubi annihilate you. He had no idea if that was how it worked or if the Kyuubi would be released upon his death. But the idea seemed to make Sasori pause. I'd like to see you make a puppet from my immortal mass of chakra and hate. A shame, without that, you will hold no interest in me. I should introduce you to your future comrades. You should feel honored because you will soon join a technique that has conquered a nation. As he pulled out a scroll, as it had 10 compartments on it. As he brought up his hand in one single hand sign, 10 puppets came out of each compartment, making 100. 100 puppets were flying in the sky. Sasori pulled off the rest of his cloak, showing the chakra strings, and also where his heart should have been, a sealing heart. Well, shit, said Naruto. But he forced the cocky grin back onto his face. A bit strained though. Well, no, I'm just pissed, said Naruto. Do enlighten me, said Sasori. As the puppets started to spread out in the sky, I thought I was the first one to work out how to control more than 10 puppets. As Naruto had left a diamond tattoo on his palms, he forced chakra through them and they grew, spiraling out in chakra lines. The black tattoo grew all the way up his forearms, as far as he has mastered technique so far. Eventually he hoped that the pattern would cover his entire body. The tattoos were a web, but every single mark was a point that was located on his body that would produce chakra. Unlike a tattoo, they will move with his points, reliably, given all position at all times, as Sasori was as chakra threads burst from their arms. But you're still outmatched and outnumbered. I have spent years honing my technique. Well, you look like you're struggling with yours, said Sasori. That was true enough as many scrolls was over the forest area as puppets started to emerge from them as the chakra string started attached to them. But he could simply stay one place and fight. Well, have you ever heard about quality over quantity, said Naruto. He felt the last strings connect to their puppets. It was like a crowd in his head. Yes, a crowd, with many players trying to connect. 36 different puppets. This was the most he has been able to manage so far. He thought it would be an overwhelming advantage, but now seeing Sasori just popped out 100 like that. You know, I had this whole quip about quality and all that, but this is hard, so I'm gonna get down with the old kill you now, said Naruto. Sasori clicked his fake teeth and everything started to move. The crowd of puppets descended down towards Naruto like a hellstorm. A shriek passed right in front of Naruto as 5 of Sasori's puppets felt limp. as Raimia burst on earth and dragged them underneath. As Saucer looked around to see the thing shrink past again. At first glance, you would think that it was a bird, but when you look closer, it was some kind of human. Bird hybrid. She had feathers on both arms with sharp chakra metals on them. It was necessary to make Hain, as he had named her. She had a limited amount of numbers because he needed her to be light so she could fly. And also, she had a protective layer of wing, with them covered in chakra metals that were incredibly sharp, her body being the weapon. She does need to have a lot of weapons in her, as he currently had 10 flying puppets circling the skies. And after their feathers ran out, the steels, they would be reslot because he had more of them inside of them. As Naruto breathed deeply, as Saucer shot some more puppet, as Hain shot by, slicing through them with her wings. 5 water cannons were fired up, as the spider web was lashed out, pulling puppets to the ground. Saucer's puppet number started to be whittled down. It wasn't easy though. For every one puppet that Saucer lost, one of Naruto's puppets were brought down by a storm of kunais, as another Hain was ripped from the sky. As they knew that the numbers would not be, well, adding up right. After all, Saucer did had 100. He had 36. A group of Saucer's puppets came down on Hain, another one. But then, she moved back, sliding her feet across the ground, hinging onto something. The moment she did, she flapped in the air as several dozen kunais ejected from the trees all around, tearing through Saucer's puppets. Rainia's tail burst and wrapped around Naruto, protecting him from a hail of senmons coated in poison. He had modified this Rainia's tail to be powerful than all the others, as his winged puppets started to sever more of Saucer's puppet strings, destroying his puppets. Saucer was pissed as his puppets were being taken down one by one so easily, as he let his puppets turn onto the Hain puppets. The Hain puppets all flew up in the air as his puppets went after them to take them down one strike. But the puppets then stopped as Naruto smirked as he twitched his finger. Suddenly, the Hain puppets extended their arms as all of their wings started to be fired out, as Saucer's entire horde went limp as their chakra strings were sliced off. Saucer released another horde of chakra strings trying to attach them back. But in those moments, Naruto puppets ripped and tear through them before he could reattach them, as Raimia was the last one to burst the ground and impale another one. As Naruto huffed and puffed, he had won, as he was surrounded by broken puppet parts. But still, he hadn't fared much better either. The only thing he had left was Raimia, and a loss. Hain flying right above his head, but he still had 2 more than Saucer. Remember what I said about quality over quantity, said Naruto. I have to admit, said Saucer, I never imagined that you'd improve this much over this short period of time. But you'll find that this is far from over. As he shook the rest of his skull to the side, as he revealed the rest of his body modification. Some kind of cable was in his stomach, and 2 metal wings was on his back, flexing, either lift him into the air or turn into wicked buzzsaws at any moment notice. It has been a long time since I've used myself. 2 tubes came from his palm as Naruto dived out of the way, as streams of fire burst from his palms, incinerating everything in front of him. As Naruto dived behind a pile of puppets, not even trusting Raimi to hold up against that inferno. As Saucer put his hands over towards the broken parts. That many puppets at that distance, they weren't easily incinerated, but Naruto's already moving. He attached one of his strings to one of Saucer's broken puppets and threw it over to the side, forcing off Saucer's attention. As he sprinted to the other side, as he poured as much shock as he could into Rainia's water cannon. The beam of water shot forward. As the fire came forward, the water was incinerated as steam. Still, it held. Well, until Saucer's hands then rotated, making the fire more precise. Rainier threw herself forward, stopping Naruto from being reduced to ashes. A moment later, streams of fire sputtered out, their fuels depleted. Some kind of thing scrolled on Saucer's back then glowed, as it then fade away. You seem fond of your water cannons, said Saucer. Let me show you how powerful they can really be. Some powerful ninjutsu that Naruto would have seen did not compare to the jets that Saucer released, as Naruto ducked and weaved, only making it to the tree by the skin of his teeth. But he had to move as the water jet ripped through the tree, making him go deeper into the forest. Find all the cover you like, said Saucer. It won't help. His hands rotated and the streams got even thinner, but more powerful. As he stopped the flow, 200 trees around them then fall apart from the water that had ripped through them, showing how deadly and precise it was. As the trees then started to fall down in every direction, Naruto was lucky that they were the thin, restless trees of Mizo, as he jumped away and pushed them away. If this was Fire Country, he would have been crushed by those trees a long time ago. When the dust settled, Naruto was like a bright beacon in the center, because he was the only one standing. As Sasori smirked, "It's been an amusing performance, but you've wasted enough of my time," he said, as he pointed his hand towards Naruto. Suddenly, Hayne smashed right into him, knocking his hand upward and jets as well. As Hayne moved around Sasori's stream, she was the only one he was controlling at the moment, so he could focus 100% on her, as Sasori could not touch her. As her wings then snapped out, bringing her to a stop, Sasori's arm went out too far, caught off guard by her sudden stop. And that was all that Naruto needed. Fire style, fireball jutsu. Hayne opened her mouth as a massive fireball erupted from it. Sasori was confused. Only human puppets, people with actual chakra system, could perform jutsus. So how was this possible? As he brought his hand around trying to slice the fireball in half with his water beam. He did so, but it did nothing. This was not easily quenched. This was a chakra-based fire, and it was beyond certain laws of physics, as his body was erupted in flames before an explosion went off. As Naruto covered his eyes, as he moved away his hand where everything settled down, as he narrowed his eyes all around, as Sasori came into view, everything below the man's chest had been blown away, along with both arms. He was nothing but half a torso with a head. Curiously, Sierra survived. "That was quite good," he said. "To bring something of your own hand like that to life. It was a good version of art. And a few months ago, that praise would have made my entire year," said Naruto, still on guard in case of a trick. "I would argue that my preservation of age is a more beautiful pursuit, but I don't have a leg to stand on anymore." "I know I'm making jokes," he said. "That fool Deidara is infecting me with his idiocy." Deidara, the mad bomber of the Hidden Stone turned Newton. It was always useful to know who else was in the Akatsuki. He had a growing list and other filled with speculation. "Is that really why you set this trap? Just for information?" As his head fell back. "I approve," he said. "So, you would be willing to tell me about the Akatsuki?" Just like that, Naruto asked. "Why not? I owe no allegiance to that group of criminals. I only joined because the offer to be surrounded by so many fascinating specimens was tempting. My vast network of information was wasted on their idiotic plan anyway. And any secret I reveal is irrelevant when pain does come for you." "I will start with the current members," he said. "Kakazu, Oftake, Hidan of Yu-Gi-Oh! Core, Itachi Uchiha, Kisame, some kind of plant creature known as Etsu, a moron called himself Tobe, Deidara, of the Hidden Stone, and myself, and the rulers of the Hidden Rain, Tenshi and Pain. Hanzo is leader of the Hidden Rain," said Naruto. Everyone knew that the man who named the Sanin couldn't be taken out like that, and the world did not know. "What reason do I have to lie now?" said Sasori. "I can think of a few," said Naruto. "You still consider yourself a member of the Akatsuki then?" "Why wouldn't I?" said Sasori. "I fully intend on returning after I've given the proper tending to your corpse." The compartment of his chest suddenly sprang open as chakra strings attacked Naruto. "So when Itomi Gato," he said, as Naruto's body froze. "I am a puppeteer, child, the best in the world. I am not defeated as long as you're a single body to be manipulated." Naruto glared back at him, but that was all he could do, as his trembling hand went into his pocket against his will and brought a kunai to his own throat. "Perhaps not," said Sasori. "I don't like damaging his skin too much if I am able." "Don't," said Naruto. "Begging for your life? I expected better from you after all of this. I even acknowledge your skill. You're better than all those fools in Hidden Sand, just copying my work. You are an original." "Don't," said Naruto. Sasori ignored him. "Don't," Naruto said. "Go on then," said Sasori, as he removed the control from Naruto's jaw so he could talk. "Don't play with your food," said Naruto. Sasori cried out. His puppet body might have felt no pain, but the small thing in his chest, that sealed with the organ like a heart, felt it. In a second, the blue threads were reverted to orange as Naruto took control. The sudden too much fluctuation of power from the Kyuubi forced into Sasori's body exploded him. As Naruto flexed his body, able to move now, he glanced around but he couldn't spot the little fleshy blob. As Naruto's hand shot out behind him, "So when, Juzu," he said, as Sasori came to a stop, as he was in a puppet body that he commandeered, as he had a sword right behind Naruto. "You're not the only one that knows that trick," said Naruto, as he pulled an explosive tag and placed it right on Sasori's chest, and jumped back, as Sasori's body exploded. This time, Naruto found the core I can't believe I used to look up to someone like you. As Sasori tried to latch onto something, his heart was trying. Anything he could. But Naruto simply stopped it. There were so many things I wanted to ask you. So many things I thought I could learn. As Naruto walked to the edge of clearing, but in a way, you set me on my current path, and for that I'm thankful. As he pulled a syringe with a purple liquid, I should bring you back to Konoha. Maybe study you to see how you manage this. But 1, bring the puppeteer into my workshop would be quite idiotic. And 2, if this is the price of immortality, I think I prefer to age with some dignity. So I think I'm gonna give you the same chance you gave me. Poison, alone, miles from safety. As he injected the quivering flesh until there was nothing left in his serum. As he was a good 100 feet away from the puppet bodies. As he placed Sasori down on the ground. Somehow, I doubt that he will fear as well. As he turned and walked back towards the battlefield to collect the debris. Goodbye, Sasori, he said. As he walked and didn't look back, not even once. Time skip. 8 silhouette was flickering. As they were in a dark cave. Deidara, would you care to explain how this happened? The leader of the group asked, his voice very calm. Still there was a steely tone behind his voice. You knew of my instructions, that we each have a partner, yes? It's not my fault. Sasori said that he would take care of it. It was just one brat. Some up-tier brat that he had to put back in his place. How was I supposed that he would kill Sasori? That upstart brat. Another member said with red eyes spinning. It's a Kyuubi Jinchuriki. And the first ninja to re-engineer the sand puppetry. Well, the last I checked, Itachi, the Kyuubi brat is supposed to be here and Kisame concerned. Whoa, said Kisame grinning. Don't pull me into this. We were told to only monitor the brat, not make a move yet. It was your partner who went gun-ho because he felt threatened by some kid. Sasori didn't feel threatened, you damn sushi roll. Kisame grinned dip. You won't say that again. We're not separated from me by 2 countries. I'll show you exactly where you can stick those creepy mouths of yours. Before Deidara could cut in, Itachi spoke. I am surprised, Deidara. You and Sasori only argue. I thought you would be happy that your art was victorious. You call it a victory? Sasori and I might have had our artistic differences, but we could have at least respect one another. I'm going to kill that dull, plain bastard when I get my hands on him. The whole world will see the blast. You will do no such thing. You have your targets, those remain unchanged, said the leader. Deidara seemed ready to argue, but he cowered under those eyes. Still, this is a loss to the Akatsuki. Sasori network proof valuable, and no matter how much Zetsu plug the gaps, it will be impossible to salvage entirely. We'll have to move up our schedule while the information is still good. That means everyone needs to focus on their high priority targets. I could be out hunting bounties, but instead I'm wasting time with this pointless scrabble. We all have our targets, so can we just get on with this? You all have your assignments. I expect results soon, before any setbacks. Dismiss. One by one silhouettes vanish, until Pain and the strangest one was left behind. What did you find, Zetsu? You're not gonna like it, said White Zetsu. We went through the entire field, but it seemed that the Kyuubi Jinchuriki went off with as much as he could carry. Sasori's body, his puppets, and the ring. The dark half said, yeah, all that we found was scraps and Sasori himself. Already dead. It was gross, said White Zetsu. Pain was silent for a moment, his eyes narrowed. After Orochimaru's betrayal, the loss of the other ring is unacceptable. If Itachi and Kisame fail to retrieve it, along with the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, do whatever you have to retrieve it. Will do, boss. Understood. And with that, the both of them went off. Time skip. Hanabi poked at the wooden arm. I heard about taking trophies from her defeated opponents, but it doesn't mean that you take her opponent, she said. It hadn't been that hard to put one of Sasori's body back together. He had hidden numerous copies of himself. It was really paranoid that one day someone would get to him and would have to switch out. So putting back one together wasn't that hard. He's not a trophy nerd, said, examine one of the flames that he collected. He's a study. You do well to take notes. Yeah, Hanbi says she deactivated her Byakugan. Most of this is well over my head. How you're able to make heads or tail of these seals is beyond me. Experience, said Naruto. Can you be any more vague? Hanbi said, taking a step back, he had a good look at Sasori's body. The gaping hole in his chest looked strangely empty, like it was just waiting to be filled. Who volunteered to turn himself into a puppet, she said. Be thankful I'm not the Hokage, said Naruto. I swear as a kid, he made a game where he'd be cryptical as possible. Yeah, some of the elders in the clan did the same things. Or probably that's just the way they were, she said. Naruto had a puppet. This will not be solved in one night. Probably months, but he had the time. Sasori was dead now, and it was strange, like people had been waking up all over the continent, not understanding what was exactly going on. showing how much control Sasori had over people. Naruto sent word to his agents to approach his sleepers. If he could get a handful of them, if they remember, it would be a look inside the Akatsuki. And how was the Akatsuki able to defeat, well, the first of the Akatsuki? Able to defeat Hanzo without anyone finding out. He wouldn't get anything right now. So, he just needs a break. How do you think he would look as a blonder to ask? Time skip. Hanabi was happy. Looking up into the sky as the fireworks went off, a lot of them. Her father would be horrified to see her there. Acting like a, well, not like a Hyuga, a commoner. Being happy at the fireworks. But tonight she was the Hyuga. She had blonde hair, with blue contacts. She could have easily passed for Yamanaka. She had thought this guys was a bit too much, seeing that they weren't even in Konoha. As she made her way through and past the stalls, the civilians relaxing through the festivities and the celebration. As Naruto told her to fail against most of the games that she went to play, shinobi skills, not to draw attention to herself, but she could freely roam around and do whatever she liked. He stayed a few paces back behind her. He had to keep an eye on her to make sure she didn't slip off. But he wasn't really interested in any of these games, as he just admired the design of the ornate clothing. He had been thinking about ways to put patterns onto his puppets, the same way kunoichis have different styles in their kimono. He could see it coming together in his head, especially when you look at some of their risky kimono clothing. As he was watching a girl, her hair was up in two buns, and the kimono that she was wearing, he was suddenly stopped from his thoughts as he felt something tugging against his hand. It was Hanabi as she was pulling him over to a stall. She wasn't even looking, she was just pulling him and looking ahead of her. He was glad that she was at least enjoying herself. As she was pointing to a goldfish in a tank that children were trying to swoop out with pathetic rice paper discs. There was an innocence in her. Innocence in most of the kids here. No, she would have been a kunoichi regardless what he did. He opened back his eyes as he smiled at her, as he allowed himself to be led up to the tank. He paid the stall manager, who handed over 3 discs. He knew it was a scam, the water would made of discs. Tissue paper. There were probably a few stirred discs hidden among the stacks, to keep it a bit interested. Hanabi tried it not using chocolate like he asked, and the result was predictable. It failed. As she frowned as the last disc broke. Naruto didn't know why, but it stirred something in him. And the man didn't smirk. Nice try, little girl, you were close on that last one. Maybe your brother there will let you try again. This man was a shop owner, yes he was. A gambling man. The way he spoke, he was just trying to invite them in to play and take more money from them. I'll do you one better, said Naruto as he paid again. But he set this to the side, taking one and looking it over. As he placed it right on top of the water, he did not dip it in. It was just hovering right over a fish. With a quick flick of his wrist, it went down and knocked the fish up into the air. Right at the stall owner, as the fish dropped right in his shirt, he started to flare around as the people started to laugh. He used the chaos to pull himself and Hanabi away from the stall. It's been a while since he did anything so kid-friendly. And you were telling me not to draw too much attention to Hanabi. As she had a goldfish in her hand, she took it. Well, in the confusion, she was picking up bad habits from him. But he approved. Ninjas are beholden to no rules, not even our own, he said, in a sage tone, making Hanabi giggle, as that made him smile even more. He reminds me of the koi back in the compound, she said, as she looked at the fish. Her eyes dim. They were my mother's idea. Something to nurture the clan together. She thought it would heal the fractures between our broken family. That is what Hinata said anyway. Nowadays, she's the only one that tended to them. Father just want to forget anything that reminds him of mother. And the Branch family only sees it as another chore. And despite that, said Naruto, you still miss them. Every family have problems, but they're still family, she said. I wouldn't know, he said. She looked up at him. I guess your puppets are the closest thing you have to a family, huh? That's actually kind of sad, she said. His lip twitched, but looking at her face, she didn't mean it as an insult. You know, I've been thinking, he said. Careful with that, she said. Wars have been started for less. Huh, she was wrong. I've been thinking. It might be possible to bring you back to the village. What? Were you planning on just leaving me here, she asked. I'm being serious, he said. Are you, she asked. Because the last time I checked, you said that it was a one-time deal. I made my choice, so it's all just pointless. Do you love to mess with me? Is that it, she asked. I didn't know then what I know now, he said. I'm just trying to make things right. She searched his eyes, as she saw that he was being sincere. But she still had to say something. If this is a lie, or one of your games, you bet, when you come home lethally poisoned again, I won't save you. Then I would probably deserve it, he said, if I'm messing with you. What happened to the selfish mercenary, she asked. He's still there, he said. She walked with him for a while. You could really do it then, she asked. I have a plan. It won't be easy and it will involve a lot from you, but it should work. It's a timing that's delicate. So a little more complicated than just dropping me in front from patrol. A little, yeah, he said. So what brought this on? Oh, you know, war is drawing to a close. Kumo is in a pretty bad state. Konoha is gonna begin asking some difficult questions. You know, for a really good liar, you can be a very bad liar, she said. If this was all convenient to you, then you would have just killed me and dumped my body and be over with it, she said. You know, I've been teaching you a little too well, he said. Don't flatter yourself, she said. She couldn't get to finish that sentence as a puppet burst on the ground. It was Hain, as Hain grabbed Hanabi. She yelled out in surprise. She hadn't noticed him manipulating a puppet, as the puppet flew up and flew away, accelerating with speeds, back towards Konoha. Back on the ground, Naruto allowed himself a single look to make sure Hanabi had gotten away, as he turned back to a single spot in the tree limb. Told you that he would notice us, a voice said. As the two of them stepped out of the darkness, a Toleron with a short light grin started to interrupt a little date there. But you're a tough little shit to track down. I'll take that as a compliment, said Naruto, as he looked up at the dimension silhouette of Hanabi going off. He knew that these two could bring her back even at this distance. His best bet was to keep them busy. You should, said Kisame. Naruto, you're going to have to come with us, his partner said. Naruto did not look at him though. He knew a look in those eyes would ensnare him. He was Itachi Uchiha after all. You know, revenge never struck me as Akatsuki style. As he pulsed his chakra just in case he was already in a genjutsu. As far as he could tell, he wasn't. But there was a point of a genjutsu, wasn't it? You weren't supposed to notice. A bunch of S-strong Newton. I suppose it had taken something big to bring you all together, wasn't it, said Naruto. I guess you could say that, said Kisame. But we're not here for sorcery. No, that was interesting. If they weren't here for revenge for sorcery, that means they were here for him. And the only thing interesting about him was... His eyes narrowed. Everything snapping into place. The disappearance of Gaara. Yagura going crazy. The rumors of the Nanabi Jinjuke going AWOL. A group of the Akatsuki going after the Biju could mean nothing good. Criminals with that kind of firepower. With someone that is strong enough to keep them all together. You said too much, Kisame, said Itachi. What can I say? It's not like it's gonna matter much in a moment, is it? That is not Naruto. We haven't been talking Naruto for a full minute now, said Itachi, as Dami waved at them, dropping the axe. As Naruto left along with Hanabi, disappearing in the hole that Hain had made when she popped in the ground. He could only see through her eyes, but it was black and white, but he was still able to see. And it was better than being captured. Being prepared for a sorcerer was one thing. Taking on these two Akatsuki members, he had no chance. Wait, seriously, said Kisame? That's a puppet? Huh. The bingo book wasn't kidding, was it? Clearly, said Itachi. Naruto's substitution was flawless. But whether he knew that his artificial chakra system in the puppet would block is sharing a line of sight, or did he just make a guess? Well, Itachi didn't know. So how come your special eyes didn't notice? Asked Kisame. His puppets have chakra system. They're rather convincing. I only figure out when he continued to resist my genjutsu. The puppets have chakra? Dami just waved again, as Kisame swiped at it, but it jumped back. Okay, note to self, don't underestimate the guy who beats us at his own game. Itachi gave him another look. Quiet, said Kisame. As Itachi said nothing, he didn't say anything in the first place. But Kisame knew that look. So what now? Should we? Boom! Dami exploded. Inside the smoke, I'm gonna enjoy shaving that black finger off. One by one, said Kisame with a smirk. But guys, be any subscribe right here. For the next part, if you still know what to do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notifications they posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in social media platform. And also, guys, go ahead and check out the brand new episode of What If Naruto Unlock a Strange Power. And enjoy that, guys, over on Anime Making 2. And thank you for all of your help and your support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. But I'm out for now. See you guys soon. Peace. I'm out for now, guys.